Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's a focused look at the livable streets movement, not just the philosophy, but the messy reality of actually making change happen.
Yeah, we're zeroing in on this really interesting discussion from a live event in Seattle, and we're pulling out the sort of strategic and engineering bits that we think will help you understand where urban mobility might actually be heading.
Okay, so what are the sources here?
We've synthesized material from an event at Town Hall Seattle. It was hosted by their executive director, Kate Nickel-Carollo, and it featured Doug Gordon and Sarah Goodyear. You probably know them from the War on Cars podcast. They wrote the new book, Life After Cars.
Right.
And also Ray Delahanti, who you might know better as CityNerd online.
Okay, so a good mix of perspectives there. Advocacy, engineering, data.
Exactly. It gives us this unique view on how advocacy and infrastructure and, hyperlocal politics all kind of mesh together or sometimes clash.
Right. Let's start with something that seems pretty fundamental, actually, just the titles. You've got The War on Cars, the podcast, versus Life After Cars, the book. That feels like a very deliberate language shift.
Oh, absolutely. And they
Yeah.
talked about this directly. They kind of had to explain why they moved away from such a, catchy and, frankly, combative title.
The War on Cars is definitely combative.
It was. They said it was chosen specifically as a provocation. The idea was make it adversarial, force people to pay attention in a really crowded media space.
Which, it worked. It's an attention strategy. Grabs you.
Totally. But then once you have that attention, maybe constant conflict isn't the most productive thing if you actually want to build something.
Yeah, if you want consensus, you might need a different approach.
Precisely. So Life After Cars is designed differently. They still call it its own kind of provocation
Yeah.
because, it challenges the status quo of car dominance.
Sure.
But the feeling is much more like an invitation. The key idea seems to be you can't just preach to the choir forever.
Okay, so an invitation. Who is it for, then? Who are they trying to invite?
Well, the way they put it was it's a tool for reaching that smart person who might just be a little bit open-minded.
Ah, okay. The persuadable middle, maybe?
Kind of. It's an invitation to imagine something different. The book aims to give, encouragement and new knowledge and support to the activists, definitely. But maybe its bigger strategic job is offering a positive vision, a roadmap out of car dependency to people who aren't already on board, moving from just heat to maybe some light on practical steps.
That makes sense. Shifting the tone. And that strategic shift, well, it leads us right into the messy reality of trying to implement those practical steps, which is always, always political. You mentioned the event timing.
Yeah, this was key. It happened the day after the November 2023 election day. So the political context was immediate, charged.
Right. And that's fascinating because these urban mobility changes, they aren't abstract. They're tied directly to who wins local elections.
100%. You get the best ideas, the best engineering. But if the city council or the mayor isn't on board, it's just paper. The speakers kicked off by talking about the election results that just came in, underscoring that point. Infrastructure change is the electoral process in many ways.
I remember seeing some dark humor about the New York results flying around then.
Okay.
Jokes like, okay, based on this, cars must be totally banned in Manhattan now, or...
Right. Or capitalism is illegal there too now, that sort of thing.
Yeah. But underneath that hyperbole, there were real shifts happening.
Definitely. On the East Coast, they highlighted Zoran Mamdani winning in New York. That was seen as a real positive by street safety folks. But reflecting the, let's say, intense feelings in the cycling community there, the discussion also included some really sharp criticism of Mayor Eric Adams.
It was sharp.
Well, one speaker described him from a bike advocate perspective as someone who sucks and has for a long time, and also super corrupt.
Okay. And just to be clear for you listening, we're reporting the sentiment from the source material here. That kind of language, wow, it really shows how high the stakes feel.
It does. It underlines that achieving this life after cars isn't just about nice ideas. It's political struggle. You often have to fight the existing power structure just to get started.
And that friction, that political heat in New York, it seemed to contrast with the mood when they talked about Seattle's results.
Yeah, quite a contrast.
Yeah.
They mentioned the local Seattle wins, Alexis Mercedes-Rank, Erica Evans, Dion Foster, apparently called super early on election night. And these aren't abstract wins. These are city council seats, people who can actually allocate budget and approve the projects advocates want. That felt much more optimistic.
Okay, so we see the politics are crucial, sometimes contentious, sometimes encouraging. Let's pivot to Seattle itself then. It was the case study right in front of them. What specific kind of structural things did these touring experts notice? What can other places learn from Seattle's progress?
Well, first, even the location of the event itself was symbolic. Town Hall, Seattle, where they were speaking. It apparently barely survived demolition back in the 60s.
For what?
For highway expansion.
Yeah.
For I-5 specifically. So Seattle has this deep kind of institutional memory of almost losing its core to the car.
That context makes the praise it got feel even more significant.
It really does. And it came high praise. Michael Payne, he's on the board of the Cascade Bicycle Club. We'll get back to him. He talked about a ride he took. Out on the waterfront bikeway to the East Marginal out to West Alki Beach. He called that specific piece world-class infrastructure. Said it was nothing short of impressive.
World class, that's strong.
Yeah. It suggests Seattle's getting it right through, well, both a political will we just talked about and smart engineering. They praise the growing amount of really good bike infrastructure overall, especially the downtown network and this waterfront activation concept.
Waterfront activation, what's that involve?
It sounds like making the waterfront a destination, not just a thoroughfare. Bike paths, pedestrian areas, public spaces, making it usable for people, not just cars.
Gotcha. And there was a fun detail about Ray Delahanti, CityNerd.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, his payment for doing deep dive, data-heavy analysis is cheesecake. Seriously.
That's what they said. That's kind of charming, right? Shows the passion in this community, people doing serious work fueled by, well, cheesecake.
I love it. Okay, but let's drill down on the engineering specifics. There was one detail that seemed almost mundane, but they highlighted it. Something about curbs.
Yes, this was fascinating. When talking about what makes Seattle's bike lanes feel so good, so safe, they focused on low concrete curbs.
Low concrete curbs.
And they called it, get this, magical technology that is beyond the reach of New York City DOT.
Magical technology. A concrete curb. That sounds... Wait, what?
Exactly. That's the aha moment, right? It's not about lasers or fancy sensors. Success is sometimes just about implementing simple, effective safety measures consistently. Okay, so why is a low concrete curb magical? What does it do?
It physically separates the bike lane from moving traffic. It's a real solid barrier, not just a painted line that drivers, drift over constantly.
Right, paint isn't infrastructure.
Not really. This curb is durable, relatively cheap, and provides actual protection. It's a physical buffer. That's the magic it works.
But why would that be beyond the reach of a massive agency like New York City's Department of Transportation? That seems odd. A curb.
Well, that's the commentary, isn't it? It points to things like bureaucratic inertia, maybe.
Yeah.
Organizational complexity. Getting consensus, funding, standardizing, and then actually installing something consistently across a huge city like New York, even something simple like a curb design. It becomes a massive challenge.
The Seattle managing to do it widely is the real achievement.
That's the implication. It shows that practical physical separation can be done at scale if the political will exists to push through the administrative hurdles. It makes safer streets feel achievable, like right now, not some far-off dream.
Okay, so we have the political wins enabling the engineering successes, like these magical curbs. But how does that connection actually happen? How does the progress get made on the ground?
Yeah, that brings up the engine of change, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Michael Payne, the Cascade Bicycle Club guy, made a really critical point. He said, improvements, safer streets, sidewalks, bike lanes, this stuff doesn't happen by itself. That's crucial for you listening. Don't expect elected officials to just wake up one day and decide to do this.
So politicians are mostly reactive in this area, not proactive.
That seems to be the expert view here. They don't typically lead on this on their own. It happens, Payne argued, when people, specifically organized people, lean in and show they care.
Lean in, okay.
Yeah. They respond to sustained pressure, organized demands, data, stories from constituents. So if the low concrete curb is the technical solution, organized advocacy is the political solution to get it built.
And that's where organizations come in, presumably, making that pressure consistent.
Exactly. They really emphasized the need for strong, sustained groups. They highlighted the Cascade Bicycle Club again, calling it one of the biggest and best bicycle advocacy organizations in the country.
Why are groups like that so important?
Because they have staying power. They're not just, sending a few angry emails. They're gathering data. They're mobilizing voters for those local elections we talked about.
Right, like the Seattle council races.
Yeah. And they're consistently showing up at City Hall, lobbying, making the case year after year, decade after decade sometimes. That persistence, that's what gives supportive politicians the cover they need to shift budgets from, say, road widening to bike lanes.
So the individual needs to lean in, but their effort gets amplified massively by being part of a group.
That's the idea. It multiplies the impact.
And circling back to the book then, Life After Cars, is its role partly to, fuel that advocacy?
I think so. It seems designed to provide that foundation. Encouragement, yes, but also new knowledge, arguments, data. Political cover, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
It's like ammunition for the war, but packaged as a blueprint for the life after.
Yeah.
You need the facts and the vision to keep leaning in effectively over the long haul.
Okay, that pulls it together nicely.
So, connecting the dots here. What have we really learned from this deep dive? First, this really strategic use of language. That shift from provocation, the war, to invitation, the life after, as a way to build broader support.
Right. Tactics matter.
Second, that local politics are absolutely fundamental. Forget the national noise sometimes. City council races, mayoral elections. That's where the power to change streets actually lies.
The gatekeepers.
Totally. And third, these tangible, sometimes surprisingly simple engineering wins, like Seattle's low concrete curbs. They prove change isn't just theoretical, it's buildable right now.
And we learned that Ray Delahanti works for Cheesecake. Can't forget that.
Never forget the cheesecake. And just as a final bit of local color, the event sponsor was Cleverhood.
The rain gear company.
Yeah, high-quality rain capes and jackets, which, perfect for Seattle, shows the whole ecosystem around this movement, right down to local businesses.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's leave our listener with something to chew on.
All right. Here's a final thought, building on that need for constant engagement we discussed. We've seen cities like Seattle figure out the engineering. They know how to build those effective low-concrete curbs. They've shown a political path forward. So the provocative question is, how much of the potential progress right now across many cities isn't actually limited by a lack of engineering know-how?
We know how to build safer streets.
Exactly. But maybe it's limited by a simple, measurable lack of sustained, organized political engagement where it counts. Are we leaving potential safety improvements on the table just because not enough people are leaning in consistently?
So the question for you, the listener, is, what does leaning in actually look like in your city? Who holds the power? What specific part of your local political structure needs that immediate, consistent attention to make the potential life after cars a reality where you live?
Something to think about as you look at the streets and the politics in your own community.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for diving deep with us today.